What up, YouTube? You already know Big Lou tapping back in with what it do with Big Lou NFZR2, baby. So check it out, man. News broke about two hours ago, 2.5 hours ago, that our current president, 46th president of the United States of America, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., is going to be dropping out of the race due to, I guess the best way to say it is all the pushback. From, from the, I guess we could say from the, all the pushback, I would say from the, leaders. Well, it started out with a lot of names in the Congress that, Jim Himes, I know who he is because he's one of the ranking members of the, I think I'm not sure which committee, but he was a ranking member, meaning he's the highest ranking member. You got the chairman, whoever the chairman is the person of the party that's in control of the House. The ranking member is the highest ranked member of the opposite party that's in the minority that's on that committee. So he's currently the minority because right now the Republicans of the 118 Congress are running that Congress, even though it's only a majority of one seat, right? Nonetheless, the only one out of those first five that I had heard of was Grijalva, and that was only because I did a search one time of all the Latino members of Congress. That's the only reason I knew his name, Raul Grijalva. I believe he's from Texas. If it's not Texas, California. I could be wrong about both of those. Don't mark my word on that, though. And then a few days later, when the number got up to like 8 or 9, I think it was, then we heard Jim Himes come out. You know what I mean? And the thing is, none of these congressmen and senators that have came out since, and former leadership, former President Obama, any of them have spoken in a negative manner or shed light on Biden's accomplishments, because we all know, if you're being real and honest about it, Joe Biden has passed historical stuff, right? I mean, the list is so dang long, I can't remember it all off the top of my head, but we'll start off with the infrastructure bill. This is the biggest infrastructure bill since, I want to say it was FDR, right? You're talking almost 100 years ago, right? When Trump was in office, every week it was infrastructure week. Oh, this is so easy. Remember what he said? It's going to be easy. I'm the best negotiator, right? And he didn't negotiate jack shit for the American people. He gave big tax cuts to the rich and wealthy, and you know what I'm saying? And that's what's going on even now. He's offered to oil and gas, conglomerates big favors in the future if they, donate towards his campaign. Some of these tech guys now that are starting to fall more towards his way. Same thing, you know what I'm saying? It's big. It's going to be big. This offers. Who knows what they're talking about behind the scenes? But we already know it's anytime you're going to have people that have big bucks, right? They're looking for more tax cuts. But then on top of that, they want to keep paying their workers. They want to go backwards on paying their workers. That's part of Project 2025, right? Everything in that bill, not that bill, but that blueprint for the next Republican president, which is they're hoping it's going to be Donald Trump, right? It's all taking us back. Everything in that bill is taking us back 50, 60 plus years, right? To where less rights for workers, less rights for people, less rights for women. They want to monitor women's pregnancies, right? They want to make it illegal to take a certain medication and call it I forgot the word exactly they used, but basically put it on the same level as cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin, so on and so forth, right? And I think a lot of that got to go with the great replacement theory, right? They want to encourage white people to have more kids so they can, it's a nonsense theory, right? It's definitely majority of that. All that stuff is not Christianity, period. I don't give a shit if you proclaim you're a Christian. It's not Christianity, because nowhere in Christianity, especially in this modern time, back in the day, they had to do what they had to do. So there were some killings, there were some wars, the holy wars and all that. Some say the holy war is still going on in Gaza and Israel, right? But, in this modern day, Christianity is about love. This shit of hating immigrants, when majority, if you start looking at people's trees, their family trees, there's somebody that came from somewhere that wasn't the United States from the beginning, right? It's just nonsense. It's straight evil, hateful rhetoric, spewing just garbage constantly that has no place here in the United States. It's not a majority. That mind frame is not a majority. And some of these people that are deciding that they want to go for Trump because they feel sorry that he got shot at, they're doing it solely on that. You'll be surprised. On these last few weeks, I've been talking to so many people. I would say the last couple months, but more so these last few weeks. I've been talking to so many people about things, and they clearly have no idea at all of things that Joe Biden has passed. The Biden-Harris ticket has passed. They have no idea what they're trying to push for the future. They have no idea what Congress and the Senate have, passed through. They have no idea what the shenanigans that Trump's been involved with, right? Even with that being said, the so-called liberal media, right? MSNBC, CNN, even them, at this point, it's like they're just tired of it, it seems like, and they're just voting Trump on a curve all the time. And it's become very, very, very obvious that the coverage they get of him is on the ratings, right? It's on the ratings, because even though people say, oh, Rachel Maddow talks very spiteful about Trump, that's one person. You know what I'm saying? Tapper, Bash, they don't do it, right? Melbourne, all them dudes, they keep it, just tell whatever they know, whatever the story's about. They don't get involved with like trying to persuade people to vote. They don't feel that that's their job, which I don't think it is either. If you consider yourself a journalist, your job is to give whatever facts you found, show the proof of it, and then when you want, don't come out dropping names. Oh, this person said, there's been this person and that person and a bunch of coalition of people that said this and that, but they won't put their names out there. That's chicken shit, right? So, that on that too, right? And that goes for, when I say journalists, that goes for everything. Like even people on this YouTube that are doing like mob stuff, and they're so well opinionated about people, they should just shut the fuck up and just tell the story of whatever they're going to tell, and produce the receipts, and which is the proof or whatever they're trying to push, the narrative, and leave it at that. Let people decide. Don't put your 2 cents in. That's the problem, right? And then when you put your 2 cents and somebody pushes back against your 2 cents, then you become a baby and whining and cry baby about how unfair you're being treated. You know what I'm saying? That this shit is ridiculous, man. They want to talk about us, the young people that this generation. Nah, motherfucker, it's a bunch of you jive ass turkeys that can't take any type of criticism. None. You pee your bed, you pee your pants when you get a little pushback, right? And that starts at the top of the ticket with old Donald Trump himself, right? Everything about him, everything. It's all a witch hunt. It's all a hoax. It's all poor me. Look what they're doing to me. I'm taking this for you, so you don't have to. No, bullshit. You did it to yourself, because this thing that I have and everybody else has in their face called a mouth, you can't seem to keep it the fuck quiet. You know what I'm saying? And therefore, that's why you keep getting caught up on tape, because you got to constantly brag about yourself, about how great you are, how you're the best, how everything perfect it has to do with you is perfect. I mean, who the hell says publicly, let alone publicly, but even on their own time, that there's nothing they have to ask forgiveness for? I mean, what are we doing here? Everything about this clown when he talks is about him. Just like the other day, he's bitching about people have water holes out there to get cool. What about me? Like, what the fuck, dude? Everybody's giving you millions and millions of dollars, and you're spending it on your own self. Your wife, come on, almost $300,000 a year that people are donating goes to her nails and hair. What the fuck what are we doing here, people? What are we doing here? And then you guys are literally losing your way of life, homes, because you're donating to this clown. It's something else. I don't know what's going on. I know what's going on. It's unbelievable, right? It's unbelievable that people can be so gullible. And when you hear his own voice on tape to say, "Oh yeah, that's not what I'm hearing," you know what I'm saying? It's the same thing like when you say, "Well, Joe Biden's out there talking. It looks like he don't know what he's doing or saying. We can't unsee what we're seeing." Well, you can't unhear what you're hearing either. You know what I'm saying? Now I understand AI's out now and all that, but these are recordings from before all that. You know what I'm saying? He can't just seem to get out of his own way, but let alone it doesn't seem to bother any of his peoples, right? So it's a trip, right? So back to Joe Biden. I mentioned the infrastructure bill. He passed that, right? And keep in mind too, on a bipartisan basis, right? So in other words, yeah, he's getting say there's 240, or I don't know, there's 434 in the House, right? Say, for example, there's 234 Democrats at that time, right? Well, he's getting all those votes, plus he's getting 20, 30 of the Republicans voting too, or maybe 15 in the House. I don't know. Nonetheless, it's still you're still getting votes from the other side of the aisle, right? Okay, in the Senate, you're getting 51 senators from the left, and then you're getting a good 8 to 10 to 12 on the right. That's still considered bipartisan, right? Joe Biden's been doing this a long time, and some people like to make that like it's some point that they got. Oh, you've been doing this so long, Joe. Look at what just changed. Well, he wasn't the president, okay? It's like, because that's what a lot of people don't know. They don't even know how the government runs. I had somebody tell me the other day, well, if that was the case, well, Obama was president, why didn't he get things done then? Well, hello, Mitch McConnell, the very day that he got voted in, they had a meeting, right? And Mitch McConnell said, we're going to do all in our power to make him a one-term president. Well, they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it, but they did their best to block everything that he tried to put forward. Another thing people seem to forget, Obama inherited a mess from George W. Bush, right? A fucking mess with everything that was going on. Joe Biden was his vice president. Why do you think Obama went to Joe Biden to be his vice president? Okay, at that time, he wasn't good enough to be president, right? That's another point that I'm going to bring up later. So they brought him up. They brought him in. He becomes the vice president. They win. They win re-election. So at that point, Biden already had 36 years in at the Senate, I believe. I believe it was 1972-ish to 2008, right? 36 years as a United States Senator for the state of Delaware. Then you add on 8 years as vice president, and now 4 years as president. You're talking a long-ass term. Now, you have people that say, well, you've been here this long, Joe. Da-da-da. Correct. But we all know that Joe Biden's name has been attached to many bills over the years as a senator that he either wrote, that he authored himself, or he was a co-author, or he was a big backer of it, right? Okay, some will say that, the 3-strike law, yeah, he was big on that, along with Bill Clinton. But at some point, just like with Governor Jerry Brown, they figured and they noticed, figured, and had a change of heart on what they pushed forward back in '94. So they started trying to go back on what they voted in originally. There's nothing wrong with that. You're talking about time over time, seeing that it didn't help. It made things worse. People didn't deserve to get 30, 40 years for some weed or some whatever, right? So as a United States Senator, he was part of a lot of bills, right? Then he becomes vice president after then Senator, junior senator of Illinois, Obama, asked him to join his ticket, right? To become the first Afro-American president, right? Okay. The reason why he did that, like I said, Biden had a lot of experience at that point, right? And now you add on another 12 years on top of that experience that he had at that point, right? So he comes in with Obama. It's not just the Obama ticket, because when Trump was running against him, he kept trying to throw shade on him. It's the Obama Biden ticket, right? Okay. So Biden was a big instrumental part of getting the economy back rolling, getting things rolling, getting things back off the ground, and going in the Obama's first and second terms. First term, and then smoothing it through, the remainder of the first term and into the second term, right? He was part of the Obamacare, the ACA, right? Affordable Care Act. Yeah, it needed a lot of work, and these things, tweaked here and there. That's what government's all about. Seeing how things work, and if it needs a little more time to balance out and to start doing what it was created to do, that's how it works. These things don't go into effect like that. That's the thing that I don't understand these people, man. Just because he comes out with the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, and things of that nature, it doesn't just because he passes it, it goes in effect. It takes some time. And as we've seen, it started at 9% inflation, and now it's down to 3%. You know what I'm saying? But you had Donald Trump, on the other hand, talking about it's the highest inflation ever. No, I think the highest inflation was somewhere in the 20s, right? And the inflation that Biden inherited from Donald Trump was because of inflation was because of Donald Trump and his big tax breaks to the wealthy, right? On top of the tariffs to China that he almost ran all the farmers into the dirt. This guy has no brains. I mean, he wants to raise a 10% tariff tax on everything that's brought into the U.S. So who pays for that? The consumer, dummy, right? He wants to deport 10, 12, 15, maybe up to 20 million people by putting them in immigration camps, concentration camps before they're deported. Well, first of all, we don't have the resources to send people away like that. On top of that, that means you got to house them, medical them, and all, have medical and all that for them, which is going to be a ton of money, right? And the last thing on that is that because these immigrants work, and he's talking about all immigrants, not ones, if they're not actual U.S. citizens, he don't care. He's talking about ones with work permits, visas, and everything, getting them all out of here. Now, because of those immigrants, they were a big hand in getting the economy back rolling and out of the way it was left by Donald Trump. Okay, so I said that to say this. On Biden's 2 terms as vice president, he was there to help Obama, assist him in any ways with his wisdom, his wiseness, all the wisdom he had from the years from being a veteran in the U.S. Senate to help with whatever it was that needed to be done to get him off the ground and going and rolling again, which they did. Hence, Trump and Harris had an economy which was going good already. I don't know what that is. Oh, and so that's what happened there, right? Okay, so he had to do it a second time after they gave Trump a good economy, and it continued to go. It continued to go well for him, which he took all the credit for, right? Which is expected. That's what presidents do. No matter that's the whole point of it, right? They take credit for when it's going good, and they get the bad credit for when it's going bad, right? But for some reason, even though Trump wasn't the reason for COVID, he definitely did a shitty job as the leader of this country when COVID was here, right? There's no doubt about it, right? But he would always make sure that when he went up there to talk about ventilators in New York and PPP and all that stuff, that he made sure to say how great his administration was doing, right? And we can't ever forget about him talking about going into the skin with a light and going in with bleach and it knocks it out in a second. And is there anything we can do about that? And how stupid he looked right there, right? Because and the only reason I'm saying how stupid he was, I don't think I would even say that if it wasn't for the fact is he talks about he's so smart, he uses the best words, and that he had an uncle that was a professor somewhere, and therefore that makes him smart. He's very dumb. He don't have common sense. Because if he had common sense, like I mentioned earlier, this thing he has on his face would be shut the fuck up, right? But he can't help himself. You know what I'm saying? The speech at the RNC was supposed to be about bringing us together, unity. Where? I didn't hear it anywhere, right? I didn't hear it anywhere. It was just more of the same old nonsense, same old bullshit by him. I will say this, that when he did walk in the RNC from the first night, he did seem different. You know what I'm saying? He did seem like he was touched somewhat by the applauding and the handshakes that he got from his friends and close allies and family. You know what I'm saying? Which is kind of hard to believe that he wouldn't, since he's a human, but he doesn't normally show any type of stuff like that, right? No compassion for others. It's only about the compassion for him. But it didn't take long for him to get right back to crazy Nancy. Joe's the worst president in history. There's no proof of that whatsoever. But like I was speaking before, so many people are under the impression that Joe Biden had done nothing, that he was just president and just there. You know what I'm saying? And we were in a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, right? Since the Great Depression of the 20s, right? Where he brought us back out of, right? Just like they did with the Obama administration, right? Another thing is he was involved with the Ebola and all that crisis, right? He was in charge of that. And so this is the second time. That wasn't a pandemic. That was more of an epidemic, right? But the other point to that was that Obama put together, I don't know if they're called doctors or they're called scientists, but they were there to keep their eyes on the world. Keep their eyes on the world for another epidemic like Ebola. And it ended up being a pandemic like what we end up getting, right? The C word. Okay, which was way worse, right? So many more people died. Lost their businesses. Some people lost their place to live. It was terrible, right? And so that crew that Obama put together, which would, like I said, I don't know if they're considered scientists, doctors, both. I'm not sure, but they were dismantled by Trump almost immediately upon his entering the White House, right? Anything that Obama did, he reversed, right? And so, hence, look what happened, right? The other point of that is that he knew all along how bad this shit was, how terrible the disease was. He admitted it on tape again to Bob Woodward when Bob Woodward was, I think it was Bob Woodward, when he was going to do the book, when he was going to do a book. So he had recordings. And Trump admits it right there. I knew how bad it was all along. I just didn't want to scare the American people. Well, that's not how you do it, buddy. You keep it honest. You be honest about what it's going to be a hard battle going forward. But, you know, this is what it is. And I think that's where Joe Biden misses the mark, is that he's not good at communicating, put a strong message across on how well of a job they did. Now, you keep hearing, the other day, I was somewhere and I asked somebody that works as a car salesman about the economy, and they're like, oh yeah, the economy's in the dumps. I go, well, I just don't see that. I go, every time it's time to travel, every time they're hitting record marks on traveling on the road, in the air, on trains, buses, whatever, right? People are filling out concerts left and right. They're filling out all kinds of venues that cost a lot of money, right? I don't hear about places being not sold out, right? Yeah, groceries are up. They're up 20% or so. But that's because of corporate greed. It has nothing to do with the president, right? It has nothing to do with the president. But the president can put bills out there, hopefully, that'll pass through the House and the Senate, or the Senate and then the House, or maybe go to the Senate, or start in the Senate or start in the House, and then it gets tweaked a little bit here and there from other senators and other congressmen, and then gets sent back to be re-voted on, right? That's how shit works. It's not just the president says this and it goes. Problem is that a lot of these Republicans, and you guys can go check the records, right? They say they're they're the party for families, and they're the party for the military, but why are they voting against everything that comes up for military or families, right? For example, the PACT Act, right? There's been over 1 million. I'm not sure what to call it, if it's called an account or policies or whatever, but it's been over 1 million million folks, families have contacted the Veterans Affairs, the VA, regarding the PACT Act, right? And the PACT Act, you know, the servicemen and women, if they're still alive, will receive extended benefits that they didn't have before, right? And if they're no longer here, their families will receive things, right, and benefits. And we're talking about our soldiers that were on the battlefields, you know, in different times, right? World War II, majority of them are gone now, because there would all be, you know, 96 at least, if they went in at 16 and lied about their age, right? Which that did happen. So it would say 96 and 98 years old. You know what I'm saying? And some of them, 102, 103, they're still pushing, but there's very few of them. It's very far in between that you're going to find a World War II veteran nowadays. Now, I've said this before. I got two granddaddies that were in World War II, right? One was stationed in Germany. The other one, I'm not sure, but he's gone, and there's nobody I can ask that would know, at least not that I know of. And so I take it a little personal when people start running their mouth about military and stuff like that nature. Like those of us that had family members that fought also, just like their family members, don't mean jack shit because we don't agree with other things with them. You know what I'm saying? It really offends me, right? I'm not gonna lie. You know, I'm not gonna lie. The shit that how Puerto Ricans are treated. On top of all that, when every war since World War I, they've been right there. I don't know if they were there at all in the Civil War. I want to say they probably were. You know what I'm saying? Not many, but I want to say there were some. You know, let's get something clear. Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, and Cubans have been around for a very long time in this country, right? Let's keep it real also. Mexico, part of the United States was Mexico. So, you know, it was kind of effed up for them because once Colorado, Texas, California, Arizona, New Mexico was purchased, and some say also Utah and Nevada were included in that. Like, they started getting treated like they didn't even belong there, which some of them never lived on the other side of the border, even though they were Mexicans, right? That's a fact, right? So, you know, this shit is so twisted. This patriotic idea by the people on the right is so twisted, right? It's so twisted on so many levels. You know, another level is, and I've said this before too, homosexuals, right? It's their business. I don't give a shit what people do, right? But it's their business. When they're called demons and they're evil and this and that because they're homosexuals or they're transgenders, that's not for somebody to judge. That's between them and their relationship with God. If God can break them through that, break them through whatever that, you know, their homosexuality, that's their business. That's what they should be saying. Not that, oh, you're a demon, that's evil. Da, da. You know what I'm saying? I mean, of course, if they're doing some other goofy type shenanigans on top of all that, yeah, when it comes to, you know, young people, things of that nature, yeah, of course. But, oh, man, it's a tough topic because, you know, they're still human beings, right? And on top of that, they're still United States citizens. So when you're going to start treating them differently, that means you're treating them as lesser than because you don't like what their alternative lifestyle, whatever. Another thing on top of all that is that, what do you think? You think there's never been no homosexuals that have been military trained to kill? You know what I'm saying? There's never been transgenders that were in the military that learned to kill? I mean, you think it's only a right wing people that carry guns? Come on, man. That's so stupid. You know, and I'm going to say it like this. You're underestimating your op. And I'm only saying that because the right keeps saying, you know, civil war. You know what I'm saying? For example, Kevin Gates, the doctor, I think he's even a doctor, Heritage Foundation, right? He's rumored to be a senior. Let me see. I got it written down right here. He's rumored to be senior policy advisor for Donald Trump, right? So, you know, he said it depends on what the left. If the left allows it to be bloodless, then it'll be bloodless. So in other words, it's just saying, lay down, and we're just going to, you know what I mean? On top of all that, you got them trying to sue Michigan, the state of Michigan now, because at the VA, the Veterans Affairs, they're allowing people to register to vote there. Okay, these are ex-military people, which majority of them are more centrist or on the right. You know what I'm saying? Not all, but majority of them, right? Okay. That's an issue for some reason. It reminds me of back, I was really young at the time, but they made a big old deal about registering to vote at the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles. They made a big old deal about that, right? You know, and now they want to send people to go stand at a polling place, not a polling place, but a voting place, you know, somewhere to vote, and have their right-wing people standing there to intimidate others. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what the hell is going on here? You know what I'm saying? This is why Democrats need to punch back and punch back hard, because they always think that if they do something this way or that way, that the Republicans are going to do the right thing. And they've shown time and time again that that's not in their cards. That they're not going to do that. They might make you think they're going to do that, and then when you got your guard down because you think, yeah, they're going to do the right thing, you know, they slap you upside the head and say, you big old dummy, we're the Republicans, what you think? You know what I'm saying? And it's got more uglier with words and rhetoric and things of that nature on the violent tip since MAGA has been around, right? So anyways, back to what I was saying about Biden. Biden's going to just supposedly dropping out. He's going to be endorsing his VP, right, Kamala Harris, which I believe at this point is the only viable option, because she's the only one that's ran a federal campaign, right? None of them other guys, Andy Bashar, whatever his name is, Josh Shapiro, Gavin Newsom, Whitmer, Wes Moore, none of them have ran a federal campaign. None of them have raised a federal dollar, right? A lot of them ain't even known. Their names are not known, right? Yeah, Gavin Newsom, California. California got the biggest, at one time was the 4th biggest economy in the world. Now they're the 5th. So, of course, he's known, right? I think his name was already getting to be known when he was the mayor of San Francisco. And then, of course, when he was a lieutenant governor, but more so now as the governor. But Gavin Newsom as a vice president with Kamala Harris is 2 Californians. I don't think it'll work. I don't think that would work. I do like Wes Moore. I think he's real smooth the way he speaks. He makes a lot of sense what he talks about. He's already done some things as the governor of Maryland. He's also a military guy. He was a captain, right? So he's got great education behind him. He's an officer, right? He's, like I said, he's smooth with his words. He knows what he wants to do, right? He's praised Joe Biden's record and where he was going to go with a second term, right? Which was a lot more of the same for American people, right? Because there's no way in hell you're going to make me believe that every senior that's getting the big break on insulin are only Democrats, right? You're not going to make me believe. You're not going to get me to believe that only ones that are going to get, they're in talks with big farm right now to try to lower the top 10 drugs across the board, right? There ain't no way in hell you're going to get me to believe that they're all just Democrats to take those medications, right? When there's an illness, when there's a disease, when there's a addiction, there's nothing on a survey or a questionnaire that's asked if you're a Democrat or Republican or independent when it comes to those things, right? The debt forgiveness on tuition, you ain't gonna get me to believe it's just Democrats, right? All the projects that have been announced because of the infrastructure bill and the Chips and Science Act and all that are not all just in Democratic states and cities, right? Matter of fact, you got people like Ted Cruz of Texas, Lauren Boebert of Colorado, Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, and so many others that voted straight up against those bills, the infrastructure bill and the Chips and Science Act and the PACT Act, the military thing, that are that voted against it, that are now coming out to brag about the money that came to their district when they voted against it. You know what I'm saying? That just shows you how spineless and snaky and slippery these Republicans are. Just like the nominee for the Veep, right? Trump's nominee, J.D. Vance. All the stuff he said more vile stuff. Some of it, in my opinion, is very true of Donald Trump, right? That even Democrats haven't said publicly. You know what I'm saying? And now this dude just did a complete 360, just like Stefanik did. What's her name? Liz Stefanik or Liz Stefanik? I forgot what her first name is. Stefanik of New York, where she was totally against Trump, and now all of a sudden she can't take her tongue off his loafers, right? You got J.D. Vance licking on one loafer, right? You got Stefanik licking the other end of the loafer. You got Marjorie Taylor Greene hanging from his belt loop. You got Tim Scott and Byron Donald trying to take his pants down, right? You got some of these other ones licking the other loafer, right? And he's just a total piece of crap person. You know what I'm saying? And, you got people like Lauren Loomer who's over there talking shit about she don't want nobody that's an anchor baby, you know what I'm saying, in her country, let alone being her president, right? And she made that comment against Nikki Haley. The funny part about that is you got Kash Patel in the same video, who he's born here in New York, but his parents are from somewhere else. I think he's of Indian descent, but he's from, I think the parents came from South Africa or something like that. He's on the same little clip, talking shit, running his mouth, but yet there she is saying what she's saying, right? And even worse than all that is that Donald Trump, if you want to get serious about it, Donald Trump's an anchor baby. His mama's from Scotland, right? 2 of his baby mamas are from other countries. Therefore, Don Jr., Ivanka, and Eric are anchor babies, right? And then on top, Barron's an anchor baby, right? If you want to talk that evil shit, you know what I'm saying? That hateful rhetoric, spewing just nonsense out of your mouth. The shit you're preaching is right there in front of you, with the head of the ticket, the head of the snake. And it's time that everybody shows up and shows out to take out the head of the snake of MAGA. And I don't mean that literally, like violently wise. I mean at the ballot box, by defeating him, by showing up and showing out to vote blue up and down the ticket, right? I'm not registered a Democrat. I'm registered independent. 2020 was the first time I ever voted, because I always had been on parole or probation, right, in the state of California. Now, in the state of California, once you're off parole, you can vote, right? Every state's different. Like Florida, for example, you can be off parole, but you can't vote unless all your fines are paid, right? So there's just so much stuff, Biden has been a legendary figure. You got other guys that have been around too, like Biden, like Patrick Leahy of Vermont. I think he's from Vermont. Patrick Leahy. Dick Durbin of Illinois. These guys been around since the 70. I think Patrick Leahy's been there since 74, I think, and Durbin since like 77. So you're still talking close to 50 years they've been there. But they've just been a senator, right? Biden's been a senator, vice president, and president, right? Biden's only one of so many that have been a congressman, a congressman either in the House or the Senate, a vice president and a president, right? We know Richard Nixon was I think Richard Nixon was both. I think he was in the House and the Senate, and a vice president and a president. LBJ was another one. George Bush Sr. was another one. So he has a lifelong, more than half his life in public service. And when they talk that shit, like I was starting out at the beginning of the video, was he's been around forever and this and that, da da da. But yet we the people, for the people, by the people, put him in there over and over and over again. You know what I'm saying? So, that argument doesn't hold water, in my opinion. It's the people that put him there, right? Of course, on the Senate level, it's just that state. But on the vice president level, because they're joining the ticket with the presidential candidate, that's 2 times he was voted in and re-voted in, right? Voted in and then re-elected on a second term with Barack Obama. And now he was voted in as president of the United States, number 46, with his VP, Kamala Harris, who he's now endorsing as for president. You hear some arguments about, I'm going to stop with his bills, what he's passed, because there's just so many of them that I mentioned 3 so far. But there's more. I'll come with more later if I get to that point. But what I was going to say was, you hear a lot of people like Jank over there at TYT, Young Turks. He's saying that, some people are putting up the argument that it's got to be Harris because he can release the money to her since she was on the ticket, right? You're talking like $100 million. But Jank I think Jank got a fair argument if it's righteous. I'm not saying he's not righteous, but does he got all his, ducks in line with what he's saying? I'm not sure, because you hear AOC and some others saying that, and then they already said that Mike Johnson's going to push back on Biden dropping out and then replacing him, right? Which I don't understand why, because I understand why. It just goes more towards that poor us, crybaby mentality, because according to them, if it's Harris is on the ticket with Biden. So if Biden has done so wrong, so bad, like they suggest that this place is a third world country and everything is so terrible and this and that, even though we're number 1 in the economy, we're number 1 in the GDP growth, right? Unemployment's down, 27, 28 months, record straight of 4% or under. Stock markets are booming. 401ks are booming. Now, you can't really go off all on just that, because a lot of Americans don't have 401ks and stocks and bonds. But those that do, which are quite a few Americans that do, they're very happy on where it's going. You listen to Trump and it's because, they think they're going to re-vote him in. Come on. He was saying that already 16 months ago, right? He's been saying it since before Biden was voted in and sworn in that the country was going to be in garbage, was going to go straight tanking, it was going to be a recession. Well, that hasn't happened, right? It hasn't happened. And he's still saying the same thing. Well, what happened to your you and the rest of your MAGA people said this was going to happen before he got voted in, and that was a reason not to vote him in. Another thing, drill, baby, drill. That's what he keeps saying, right? But it's been proven that Biden has drilled more than ever before and has produced more oil than ever before. Now, I get the reason why people complaining about the prices of barrels. I've heard people say $100 a barrel. Now I've been hearing 70 lately. People need to realize is that when it comes to oil and gas, is that this is an international market. Now, it's not just based on United States only. It's an international market. And you got other countries producing gas, natural gases, oil and gases from different countries. You know what I'm saying? So when people start talking that, especially being here in California, we've always paid a lot for gas, right? When Trump was here, we were paying just as much as when Biden was here. It was like, it's always been a swing of like 40, 50, 60 cents. It'll go up and down, you know what I mean? Depending on the year. Now, when he did close that Keystone Pipeline, I think it was called the Keystone Pipeline. Yeah, gas did get up to about almost here, like $6 a gallon. Other places in California, like LA and the Bay Area, got almost $7 or about $7. Now, people say, oh, well, he don't care about America. I heard one person from a mob genre content creator say that. You know, and it's so fucking ignorant to say that. You know what I'm saying? To say he don't care about America when the Native Americans' land who was straight up violated and bullied over to build that pipeline of gas over there in their country or in their land, straight just said F them, like they're not Americans. You know what I'm saying? It was very it meant a lot to them that I think it was a burial ground, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It was something that was spiritual towards them. I do know that. You know, people just talk out the side of their ass. You know what I'm saying? And it's all this narrative that crime is so bad, and it's down. It's down a lot. And some of the most dangerous places are in Republican-ran states, such as South Carolina, Oklahoma. You know what I'm saying? Louisiana. You know what I mean? It's crazy, and the misinformation and disinformation is all over the freaking place. All over the place, and it's constant, nonstop. And that's why people don't know really what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Not to mention that Trump was involved in like a pump and dump scheme with his own True Social, right? They started out at 45, 47 because he was the 45th president, and he's hoping to be the 47th president. So that's how they made the price of the shares, right? And I mean, this thing has been proved to. They've only made like upwards of like $700,000, but they're losing they're losing millions and millions of dollars. So you put that publicly for sale, and you're losing like that, but you're taking the people's money. It's nothing different than a pump and dump scheme of the mob. That's exactly what it is. And all the scandalous and untruths that are behind that company, True Social, right? About like the what's it called? The FEC, I think it's called, and all those regulations that they're constantly violating. It's nonstop with this guy, but you don't hear about it at all in the news. CNN, MSNBC, you don't hear about none of it, right? You don't hear about none of it, period. And that's one of the things that these MAGA folks always tell me. Oh, where do you get your news from? You're a liberal. I don't get my news from MSNBC or CNN or anything else on cable news. That's for sure. I won't even look at Fox. They make me sick the way they fucking sit there like they're so righteous, you know. And every time they're talking, and you like, what's his name, Hannity? Oh, all I can say is they got the Trump deranged syndrome. This motherfucker got the nerve to talk like that when he's had the Obama deranged syndrome from the beginning, and the Biden was just a continuance of that because Biden was part of that administration. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's ridiculous. It's ignorant, ridiculous. It's shown that they're so partisan. It's not even funny over there. You know what I'm saying? Greg Gutfeld, that dude is not funny at all, right? He's not funny at all. I don't even see what the fuck, like, I don't even, it's them goofy ass people that don't really know what a joke is, right? It goes to the argument that like Saturday Night Live, where they always get their comics from, and Gutfeld falls in that. Like when you got guys that are really, really talented, so much talent, they're so talented that, you know, they don't be put on a show like Saturday Night Live. Not saying that there was not legends that came through Saturday Night Live and still coming through there, but majority of the you know, where they get their cast talent from, you know what I'm saying? It's like the same old place, you know what I'm saying? Instead of looking for new talent, they go to the same place all the time. You know what I'm saying? Another thing that gets me is I don't understand how these ex-homeboys, right, and ex-cons all just fall for Donald Trump when the dude's got sexual shit on him. I mean, come on, man. What the fuck is going on? And, you know, I'll tell you what some of it is. Some of it has to do with the fact is that now they're Christians. They're born-again Christians, right? And they're falling right in that false narrative bullshit that don't mean jack shit, right? The abortion shit. I went and researched it. I went and looked back, and it does not say nowhere in the Bible about abortion. It does say about thou shalt not kill in the Ten Commandments. The only reference it makes to, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm wrong and you're going to try to correct me, send me to the right place where it's going to say what I'm asking, not about speaking to a baby in the womb. I'm not talking about that with John the Baptist and things of that nature. Not knowing you from the womb to the tomb. I'm not speaking of none of that. I'm talking about the exact words of abortion, right? Not wanting a baby or something like that, right? This was something that propaganda that started getting pushed in the late 70s and the early 80s when Jimmy Carter, around that time, right? And it hasn't stopped. And it's you know, it's not about what you personally believe, right? When it comes to politicians, right? Or it's definitely not the Supreme Court. It's about what's legally right and wrong, what's constitutional law. And now we got these jokers up there, Thomas, Alito, who have been there already for a couple of decades, few decades. And now you got Coney Barrett, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch joining them to solidify their strength to now, what's the right word I'm looking for? Give the approval on some of these cases that are coming forth in front of them solely based on their personal beliefs, not if it's against the Constitution or any of that. You got a guy like Thomas who they've already proved that he's been given gifts of upwards of $4 million, motorhomes, paying for his mother to live somewhere, sending family members to college, all these retreats and ranches and yachts that he's been on for a cruise and this and that, over $4 million. And he hasn't reported any of it. So if they're the top, they're part of they're the judiciary branch. They're one of the three branches of government. So the president has to answer to Congress when they ask, right? And then if they don't answer to Congress, obviously lawsuits get put on executive orders and things of that nature. Then it gets up to the Supreme Court eventually if it gets there, right? So who keeps them in check? The American people keep Congress in check pretty much because they vote them in and vote them out. And the president, eventually too. But the Supreme Court is a lifetime appointment. So who keeps them in check? Where's their ethics? Where's their rule book? Where's their ethics sheet? They just do whatever they want. Chief Justice Roberts don't even, he's like to Senator White House and Wyden. Who the hell? Durbin, who's the head of the Judiciary Committee. Who the hell are you guys? Who are you guys to question us? You know what I'm saying? We're in a terrible position, right? Giving Donald Trump absolute immunity. Anytime that you're in as a president and you call your chief of staff or whatever, or you call your DOJ, your Department of Justice, or you call your FBI director, or you call your Secretary of Defense or Secretary of State, Secretary of Interior, Secretary of Transportation. Anytime you call anybody as the president in the Oval Office or the White House, occupying those places, and you make a phone call, no matter, even if they can prove it was nefarious, and you had bad motives behind your call and your plan, don't matter. It don't matter. It don't matter. So basically what that means is that all these people that were involved with the overthrow of the government, the planning, the conspiracy of it, the fake electors, all them people are going to end up going to jail, but not the king himself. I should say the monarch, because he's not king, is by bloodline. There's no bloodline here. This is the whole reason why the United States was born on the idea, right, of getting away from King George, I believe it was at the time, not paying taxes to another foreign country, to a foreign land, but because coming up with their own ideas. And the United States was based on the idea itself. No king, no monarchs, right? No authoritarianism, no authoritarians. Everything was based on democracy, voting the person in as the leader of the free world, as the commander-in-chief, and then voting in the Congress, voting in the senators, and doing it that way. Now, I'm going to do another video on everything I believe that should be revamped, and I know I'm not the only one. That's the only way we're going to end up, because the way this setup is now with the Electoral College and all that, the way the senators are set up, is garbage. It's garbage, straight garbage. You're only going to have anywhere from like a 2 to a 4 seat lead at any given time, and it'll go back and forth, back and forth. I don't understand how a state like California or Texas, with all these millions and millions and millions and millions of people, have only 2 senators, and a place like Maine or some small state who has maybe a eighth of them, or maybe a tenth of the amount of people, have the same amount of senators, that their word speaks for only 10 million people, and that these other 2 senators' word speaks for 20 million people or 50 million people, and they're the same. They're equal the same. That don't make no sense. That's why in the Congress we have 5, 8, 10, or whatever it is in California, and other states may only have 2 or 4 or 6. You know what I'm saying? It should be based off the same deal. Term limits. And that goes for the Congress, all 534 members, both chambers, and that should go for the Senate. The Supreme Court as well. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. I wasn't planning on going this long. I believe I hit some good points. And maybe I didn't hit some good points. So for that being said, maybe those that believe I'm just talking nonsense, because I had one guy tell me that everything I say is bullshit, but everything he says is just straight up, right? This is another thing I'm going to say. I don't agree with everything Biden has done. No, not at all. But it seems like anything Trump says, everybody's 100% behind him. And that's not realistic. That's not realistic. Now, another weirdo like Carrie Lake, and I'm going to do a video on Carrie Lake, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Boebert, And I'm not going to say what it's about right now, but, you know, she is, you know, another thing that don't make sense, that all these elections are all stolen and rigged, but yet you're going to keep just trying to, you know, you didn't get governor, now you're going to go for senator. After that, then what? What are you going to do after that? You're going to go for assembly, state house in Arizona. Everything's rigged until you win it. You know what I'm saying? Come on, man. It don't make sense. Biden won in 2020. They had the House. They didn't win the Senate. It was more even, right? I think it was even straight up. The vice president would be the tiebreaker, which she was. I believe she was more of the tiebreaker more than any other vice president in history. Okay? Don't you think it was really rigged like they said it was, that they would have made sure that they had the Senate by 1, 2, 3 seats at least, or at least one more seat in 2020, right? It's just utterly nonsense, right? It's utterly nonsense. And again, if Trump would have did a better job and been a better leader during the C word, maybe they wouldn't have had to do all the mail-in ballots, right? But what's funny about that is that he's always done his by mail-in ballot as well as other people. You know what I'm saying? But because you don't like mail-in ballots, it's just your decision to say the F it with all of them. And all our military people overseas and people here that maybe might be sick and, you know, can't get out of the house like that or don't have a vehicle, you know, the F with all them too, right? Same reason why I'm going to use him for example, because this is the one I know it happened a lot more than any other place. Governor Abbott, Greg Abbott of Texas. At one point, they had like, what, 40-something, 30-something locations to vote in Harris County, which is Houston and, you know, the surrounding areas. And he went ahead and shut down a whole bunch of them and only left like 6 or 8 of them open. Why do you think he did that? Because majority of Black and Latino voters that vote are usually elderly. Usually they don't drive. Usually they got to get a ride from somebody. But now you're taking them way out of their way. So now they got to get a ride instead of just going down the street or a few blocks. Now they got to go hop on the freeway and get off on the other end of Houston, right? Which, if you know, Houston is one of the biggest cities in the United States. Another thing was passed. There's a few things that were passed. I don't know if people even know. You could be standing in that line to vote for hours, because the line's so long. And like I just said, Governor Abbott shut down 30 plus places to vote, and now there's only 6 open. Therefore, the ones that do go, it's going to be longer lines, longer wait. So they want you to leave to go get something to drink or eat. If anybody is caught passing out food or drinks in the line, it's a crime. What kind of shit is that? That means what? Everybody in the line is voting Democrat? I mean, it's ridiculous, right? On top of all that, there's been so many bills that's been rolling out and rolling back in states across the nation on voter rights, right? And there's a long list of reasons why, right? But I do know that the Supreme Court said that I don't know if it was said this year or if it was the end of sometime last year, but they said, oh, we're in 2023 or 2024 now. We're so far past racism that these bills don't need to be in place no more. The Voter Rights Act. Are you serious? Are you serious? But there's so much gerrymandering going on nonstop in all these different states to reconstruct districts. You know what I'm saying? Therefore, that they're trying to take away a district that's been normally Democrat or swing, that you're trying to swing it, the pendulum to the red. You know what I'm saying? But when you see a place like Alabama, which is all red, win a Congress seat, where they lost the last time they ran by like 8, I think it was, and this time they won by like, I think 8 or 10. When you see a double-digit swing, that's telling you a lot. And majority of that's just because of the abortion laws and the overturn of Roe v. Wade and the IVF laws that they're trying to push, right? It's funny, though, because you hear these people always saying that, oh, you know, a lot of times blacks and Latinos are treated as a monolith, which I can say, yeah, that might be true, right? Especially like what Clinton did in 2016, where she didn't even go to Wisconsin at all because she figured it was just automatically in the bag, right? And she learned that it wasn't, right? Michigan, Pennsylvania, all 3 of them. And so you need to get out there. You need to talk. You need to engage. You got to put forth facts and let people decide for themselves from facts, not false shit they hear, right? So my point to that is this, is that Black and Latino people, it keeps being said that, what do you got to lose if you vote for the Republican Party? For those that still are maybe on the fence or they say no, right? Because there are a lot now that are saying, yeah, Republican Trump. But they're not very intelligent people, right? They're not very intelligent people because they're just going off the false shit they hear, the shit they hear. They're not doing their own homework. And if they are doing their homework or they're not doing their homework, they're just stuck on stupid, right? Because their ideologies, right? Same thing goes for all these. Where's the most poorest places in the world? In the United States, excuse me, not the world, United States. Mississippi, Alabama, right? Where it's white, a lot of white people, a lot of poor white people. Now use that same argument with them. What do you got to lose if you vote Democrat? You know what I'm saying? What do you got to lose if you vote Democrat? When the Affordable Care Act came out, and I'm not sure what year it was, 2010, I think, or 2011, 2010, 2012, one of those years, 2011, it barely passed through, right? But there's been numerous upon numerous attempts to repeal and replace it, which have not won. It has not been, completed their fight. Trump's going to try it again, right? But Biden extended it. He extended the ACA, right? The Obamacare, for more people to get it. Now, back then we used to hear people complain that, they can't find a doctor and this and that to take it. And that was true. But the reason it was true because your governor wouldn't allow it. They wouldn't take the money for the ACA. Therefore, if they don't take the money, they're not obligated to the ACA, right? A lot of hospitals in rural areas have been shutting down, right? So you got nothing to blame but the current administration of that state, right? At that time, now, before, whatever, right? And that same old argument, too, about, the Democrats, they were the ones in the South, this and that. Yeah, they were Democrats at that time. But when they felt that LBJ was going too progressive with his voter rights and stuff of that nature, that they left the Democratic Party and went to the Republican Party, right? The Republican Party of Abe Lincoln is not the same Republican Party today or even 20 years ago, right? So I don't want to hear that bullshit about, Republicans were responsible for stopping slavery. And no, they weren't. They were, but they weren't, right? They were, but they weren't. And if that makes sense to you, then that means you get it. The ones that deny it are the ones that are just straight in denial, or they're just not that bright. It's just too hard for them to understand, right? So what do they got to lose? What do those people in the South got to lose? You know what I'm saying? In Alabama, Mississippi, you know what I'm saying? The Appalachian Mountains of Tennessee, because they got a lot of Christianity over there, right? With all these churches, right? But if you go in the churches, none of the churches are diverse. And if you are a person of color and you walk in there, they're going to look at you like you done stole something or you're about to steal something, right? I mean, who the hell goes to church with pistols on them? You know what I'm saying? And they don't just do that towards people of color. If you go into their community and you're not one of them, like in these cultish type things with these like what happened in what's that place? Waco. What happened in Waco, that organization type thing, what they had there? If you're not one of them and you come into their area, they got people on standby in their trucks to drive you out of there because they don't know what you're up to, what you're trying to snoop around and find out about them, right? And it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, but this is my feelings, this is my opinion on things. I'm putting it out there. Biden has been one of the best presidents in the history of the United States, and one of the best presidents, if not the best president in my lifetime. Trump is on the bottom because what he spews is not the majority of this country. That's why they never win the popular vote, right? And that the popular vote should mean a lot more. But I'm going to do a video on that, right? Because in my opinion, if you got such a great message, right, and your policies are so great that everybody loves them and it's for Americans, then you need to get your ass to California. You need to get your ass to New York more. You need to get your ass to Illinois more. You need to get your ass to Michigan more. Well, Michigan's one of the swing states. Get your ass to Washington, Seattle, Washington area, the state of Washington, Oregon, you know what I'm saying? New Mexico, all these other places, Minnesota, and let them hear your message straight up. This shit about only being important places being Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, now Nevada, now Georgia, and Arizona. These seven states, Ohio, probably seventh state, Ohio. That these states are the only important states. It's ridiculous, right? Because when they came up with this electoral college shit, you're talking years and years ago. Half this nation wasn't even there yet. You know what I'm saying? California didn't come into what, 1849 or something like that. So, that's their problem. That's their problem to get their message across. If they need to start campaigning a year, if they maybe need to make it 5 years as the president or 6 years as the president, or maybe even keep it 4 years, but start the campaigning 6 months to 8 months before they actually do, then that's what they got to do. But just the shit, because what's happening is you're just taking California, Nevada, California, New York, and all those other states that I said, Illinois, is just for granted. You know what I'm saying? And how is that fair? I mean, as far as, I mean personally, we know that the Republican Party is not going to win these states like that, right? But the same argument that they're making about forgetting Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, how are those states more important than any other states? You know what I'm saying? Especially California being the 5th largest economy in the world. Take United States out of it. There's only 3 other countries that have got a bigger economy than California. So, in my opinion, California should be one of the main states as far as input, you know, with all the taxes coming out of the state. That's just an idea. It's not, I mean, you know, that's what this is all about, right? Saying what we believe and saying what we think is best and speaking to others, them speaking back instead of it being a yelling match and an arguing match and making personal attacks. You know what I'm saying? That shit is that's not for nobody. You know what I'm saying? That's not what this country's about. You know what I'm saying? And the other thing too about the Donald Trump assassination attempt. Answer me this. How come they said that they took him to the hospital in Butler, Pennsylvania? How come no physician spoke about what they treated him for there, or at least a letter, if not a news conference? But instead, you got Ronnie Jackson, who used to be the White House doctor for Obama and Trump, where he's came out saying that Trump can live to 200, right? And all this other shenanigans, showing that his mind is somewhere else. He comes out with a letter from him with the letterhead. United States Congressman of Texas, Ronnie Jackson, who, from my understanding, he don't even have a license to practice medicine anymore. It expired. And that's the letter we're looking at, right? And he says on there that his wound didn't need stitches. Well, that's pretty hard to believe that a bullet hit your ear and you don't have to have stitches. Was it a 223 or 5.56 bullet? I'm not sure. It was one of those. It was from a high-power rifle, right? Assault rifle. Now he got just a little Band-Aid on it. I'm not saying that he didn't catch a wound. I'm not saying he didn't get, catch a wound. What I'm saying is, why aren't they being more transparent on what's going on? Why is everything such a secret with this dude? From his taxes to his doctor's notes, from his doctor, his checkup, his damn, what's that word I'm looking for? His physical from his doctor. Then his doctor came out saying that he told him everything to write. The doctor's no longer living. His father used to be Trump's doctor before. And then he had said something about him taking some type of medication for his hair to grow. So they didn't like that. And he sent Keith Schiller, his longtime bodyguard, down there along with some other guy to go pillage all Trump's records and any pictures of Trump or anything from his doctor office. He said they were there for about a half an hour taking things. And then shortly after that, the doctor dies, right? I'm not saying they had nothing to do with that. I'm just saying all these chain of events is strange, right? His taxes, right? He didn't want to show us his taxes because not because he was being audited. Nobody's audited for that many years, right? Because they got smart people working in the IRS. They don't need to take that long to audit people, right? But it came out to show that in a couple of years he paid $0 in taxes. In other years he paid $700. I think it was $700 or $7,000, which either number is tiny as fuck for a so-called billionaire, right? And it just proves that he's not for American people, because if he was, he would show his tax return, no problem, no half-stepping, and he would be paying his fair share, but he's not. And he wants to continue giving the big billionaires and multimillionaires big, huge breaks and tax cuts for corporations and people of that nature, right? Which is what, the top 1% of 1% or something like that. The top, I forgot how they frame it, but it's kind of disgusting to know this guy wants to be a president, but you're a doctor. I'm not a doctor, but a nurse, or you're a tow truck driver, you're a school teacher, and you pay more taxes than a self-proclaimed billionaire, that he met, self-made man, when we all know he inherited his daddy's money. You know what I'm saying? And he just tore it all up. He went through his daddy's money like he was drinking water, because he's not a good businessman for himself, right? Everybody was under the impression that, Donald Trump, he's a great businessman, and somehow they marketed him to use his name, and then he started bubbling, right? Then he started making money again. But who loses and goes bankrupt off a casino? How is that even possible? How is that even humanly possible? It takes me back thinking of when Las Vegas first started, and Bugsy Siegel and the Flamingo, right? And the only reason that happened, him losing his life, is because the project ended up costing more, and they thought after a while he was playing games with their money, and then him having the girlfriend he had, Virginia Hill, them knowing her so well personally, like Joe Adonis, who used to be his girlfriend, that they were both playing the big boys back in New York for their money. But it was partly true, I guess I'll say, but partly wasn't true. Just the project ended up costing more, and then eventually they ended up bubbling off it, right? They ended up banking. It was a cash cow. Fast forward, 40 years later, or whatever it was later, Donald Trump's bleeding money like crazy. He lost almost $1 billion 1 year. I mean, what the hell is going on with this dude? He's not a good businessman. Bankrupt 6-7 times? Come on, peoples. You guys need to wake up. Everything's a secret, this dude. People say he's so transparent. The most transparent president ever. Not. No, definitely not. He can't even show his tax returns. You know, if you ask him today, he would still say, I'm being audited. But as soon as I'm not, I'll show it. Look at the Jeffrey Epstein files. They asked him, would you declassify JFK stuff? Yep, and I already did some of it, I think he said. Would you, what was the other one? 9/11? Was it 9/11? I think 9/11. And he said, yep. And they asked him the Jeffrey Epstein's. He goes, yeah. And he pauses and he goes, well, it depends what it is, because, you know, a lot of this stuff's nonsense and I don't want to hurt people and their families. Yeah, okay, Donald. Right. Because if it's Bill Clinton in there, you don't give a flying fuck. Prince Andrew, you say you don't know him, so you don't give a flying fuck. But guess who else's name pops up so many damn times in those manifests for being on the guy's plane, right? It's been newspapers, articles have been resurfaced about you knowing Maxwell, calling her Madame Maxwell years and years ago, right? You speaking about Jeffrey Epstein, saying that he likes women as much as me, but on the younger side. You know what I'm saying? Pictures and videos of you with him. You know what I mean? It just was announced the other day by Congressman Lou of California that it's disturbing how many times your names appear in that files, and that the media are not even touching it or speaking about it at all. You know what I'm saying? And this is the big cry that really gets me, is that, oh, they're the warfare against them and the way they've been persecuting them. Okay, first of all, everybody knows when you come into politics on all the levels, don't matter if it's the local level, city council, the state house, governor, lieutenant governor, Congress, the Senate, presidency, the vice presidency, any dirt you got on you, even if it's not even you and it's a family member, they're going to bring it out. I remember when I was a kid waiting in the grocery store line and I seen a picture of Roger Clinton on there. And they were talking about how he smokes crack and other things. I forgot exactly what it was, but I remember seeing about him smoking crack, and it was his mugshot. And they were trying to talk shit about Bill Clinton because of that. So this notion that, oh, he's being so unfair and untreated, it's bullshit. It's straight bullshit, because that's what happens when you go into the spotlight of politics. That's exactly what happens. But this dude just has an enormous amount of dirt on him and things he's been involved in. Unlike any other candidate ever in history, I would say all of them put together probably. That's how dirty and scandalous this dude is, right? And the simple fact is that he bragged about, because he's a celebrity, he can just grab women. I got 3 daughters. I got a granddaughter, right? I'm not with that. No way. I don't know what locker room this dude's talking about. This locker room talk, right? This is not nowhere where they talk about stuff like that in a locker room. The farther this might go is about a player telling another player that he met some beautiful woman and they spent some time together. That's about it. The only way that they're all talking about grabbing women by their genitals is if they're all involved with bullshit like that, right? The other part about that is that when he was asked on his deposition of the E.G. Carroll case, first of all, they showed him a picture, right? And he points to E.G. Carroll and says, that's my wife, Marla, his ex-wife. And his attorney, Alina Habba, interrupts and says, no, Mr. President, or no, Mr. Trump, that's not Marla, right? Then they ask him the question, they recite to him what he said on the Access Hollywood tape with Billy Bush. And did he answer back under oath? He was under oath. Did he answer back with, oh, that was just locker room talk? No, he didn't, which that's what he should have said, right? If that was true, any truth to that. No, what he answers is, he says, fortunately, that's how it is. And it's been like that for 1,000,000 years. He goes, and sometimes, and this is between a pause, he goes, and sometimes unfortunate. So, I mean, what does that tell you right there? You know what I'm saying? It tells you that he thinks he's above, his shit don't stink. He's above the law. And then he thinks it's no big fucking deal that he did that, and he'll continue to do it at that time. I think now he's an old man, so I don't think he has much interest in that. But I could be wrong. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he does hang around Matt Gaetz. Maybe him and Matt Gaetz are breaking up some ED medication and snorting it. Who knows? I don't know. And so it's just nasty. It's just a very sick individual, right? And I'll say this too. I don't give a flying fuck who likes it or don't like it. If you're a member of the church, especially the leadership of the church, you're an usher, you're a deacon, you're the pastor, of course, assistant pastor, the youth pastor, and you're pushing this guy's nonsense. I got to question you as a leader, right? Period. Because none of that shit is acceptable, right? Especially if it's with, like he bragged about being the owner of the pageant, and because he was the owner, he was inspecting them when he just walks in and they're naked. This is against women and young girls because he had Miss Junior America. I'm not sure the exact title, but they were not adults. You know what I'm saying? He had no business just walking in there like that. That's the mind of a sick motherfucker, right? On top of that, who the hell talks about their daughter and sex in the same freaking sentence? Who talks about their daughter being gorgeous and this and that? But talking about his daughter gorgeous, but in the wrong sense. It's sick shit. Wendy Williams asked him, Ivanka, you and your dad, what do you guys got in common? She says buildings or something like that with the real estate business. And he says sex. How do you come up with that? That's some weird shit, man. Talking about Lindsay Lohan being, disturbed mentally, but that's the best they are when it comes to being in bed. Paris Hilton talking about how gorgeous she was at 13 years old and 12, and he knew she was going to be a knockout and this and that. It just is demented, sick shit, man. And nobody seems to have a problem with it. The Congressman Jason Chaffetz, I don't know how to say his name correctly. He came out saying originally that, because of his daughter, he could not endorse somebody like that. He pulled back his endorsement just to turn right around a few weeks later and give it right back. You know what I'm saying? So you don't respect your daughter. You don't respect women. You don't respect girls, young girls. None of that shit. You know what I'm saying? It's very disgusting. And it shows. It shows because, and the reason I'm going to say this is because they always bring religion into it. It shows what those people are really about on all levels, right? The racist shit, the fascist shit, the disgusting shit, the real life piece of shit, right? That I call some of them, right? And I don't even like talking like this, right? But it's got to be called out, man. It's got to be called out. To be saying the Democratic Party is full of pedophiles. Are you serious? Do you know what happened to a man said some shit like that? You know what happened to somebody for accusing somebody or of something like that with no proof of nothing? You know what I'm saying? You know what would happen to somebody? It's just like you calling somebody a rat and they never rat in their life. You can't blame them for acting out against you for opening your mouth about something that you ain't got no clue of. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of people ain't gonna get what I'm saying with that, but if you except for those that been around that know, and what I mean by being around is, been through on the streets, been through the system, things of that nature, right? I'm not saying that it's all correct and right, but that's the culture of it. You know what I'm saying? That's the culture of it. It goes to the old-fashioned feeling that women sometimes shouldn't be talking to men just on any way, right? Especially when it's, what I mean by that, let me clarify because I don't want people getting to misunderstand what I mean. What I mean is a woman going up to a man telling a man that he's a bitch, or a woman going up to a man telling him he's a punk, or a woman telling a man you rat motherfucker or something like that when they don't have the business or the place to talk like that. And what I mean by that is because being on the streets and involved with the system is totally different for a man compared to a woman. It just is what it is. It's facts, right? They conduct yourself different in the system, right? You guys might not understand what I'm saying because you haven't been there, which is totally understandable. But Marjorie Taylor Greene is always playing the victim. She always likes to bring her kids up into things. I'm a mother, but yet that shit don't seem to matter when she's going after other people. You know what I'm saying? That's the shit I'm talking about. The hypocrisy, always the whiny crybaby crap that they're constantly with. And let's be frank, like I've already said a few times, their ideology is not majority, not popular in this country. You know what I'm saying? You're talking 40%, 45 tops that somewhat agree with some of that shit. You know what I'm saying? Just like Roe v. Wade. I've never seen I've never seen a poll that suggested that after 53 years of being in law, 52, 53, 54 years, whatever it was, I know it was over 50 years, it was popular, right? Every poll I seen was always 63% and up, upwards to 72%, meaning the majority, you know what I'm saying? But yet, you get those justices in there that ruled on that case from their own ideology, their own beliefs, and did away with it, right? So we're in trouble, right? So my suggestion is vote blue up and down the ticket. Get these MAGAs out of there, these extremists out of there. They don't speak for majority of the country. And matter of fact, when they get in there, they do their own shit, right? They don't go upon their constituents. Like Paulina Rubio, whatever her name is, from Florida. She tells her constituents, well, you don't like it? What I'm pushing in Congress? Move. What kind of shit is that? How do you talk to your people that way that put you there? How do you tell them to move if you don't like what my agenda is? When your agenda is not supposed to be your agenda is supposed to be their agenda because they're the ones that put you there. You know what I'm saying? That's where these people get shit twisted. And they like to throw the Bible in it and mix that all up. That's the whole reason why church and state is separate. You know what I'm saying? But people that don't got this upstairs, which Donald Trump likes to say he has a lot of it, common sense, they really don't, because it's going to be always an issue, right? It's always going to be an issue. Okay, Oklahoma, they're putting 10 commandments on all the doors. Okay, right? But then you get to Louisiana, now the governor there is saying that the teachers got to teach the Bible, right? So that means the Muslim kids that go to school there, the Buddhist kids that go to school there, the Sikh and the Hindu kids that go to school there, the Native American kids that go to school there, they got to just say, okay, I gotta read the Bible. It's a rule here. And you're forcing them to read something that's not their religion, that they don't believe in. I thought you're supposed to, the United States was about believing in what you want to believe in your own freedom of speech, your own freedom to pack arms, right? Your own belief, your own freedom of religion. So where does this come from then? You know what I'm saying? You hear the same people say, I don't have a problem with people being homosexual and trans, but just don't push it off on me, right? But in the second part of that, they're not telling you is this is a Christian society, and this nation was founded on Christianity, and therefore, you know what I'm saying, we're going to push Christianity on everybody. What's the difference? What's the difference? I mean, you go all the way back to Thomas Jefferson, third president of the United States. I believe he's the third president. He was a big proponent of separating church and state. Because if you guys remember, back in the day, way back in the day, the Vatican was running a lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Look at the Vatican. The Vatican had a lot of things to do with France, you know, with different places, with during the World War II, where they were hiding out Nazis, and Nazis from France, Nazis from Germany, Nazis from Austria. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't work right. And it's been proven. You know what I'm saying? It's been proven. And people are, you know, there's nothing wrong with being a Christian. No, there's nothing wrong with, but when you don't live the Christian life that you're trying to push, then there is something wrong. You know what I'm saying? And that's all I'm going to say right now. I'm going to go ahead and tap out. This video is way longer than I expected it to be, but I put out some things that I think need to be said. I don't see anybody watching this video longer than 20 minutes or something like that. But nonetheless, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? And at some point, not at some point, but you know, I started out this channel more sports than anything, but now especially this past week or so, it's been more political videos, which I wanted to try to get back more to sports, but it's just, you know, I feel that this is just important to try to get the message out, because so many people are being led falsely and being told disinformation, and you know what I mean. And so with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and tap on out. I'm gonna drop some other channels in the description. Go check those channels out as well. And with that being said, Big Lou tapping out.